Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're going to get into something that feels almost too simple to be true.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
We're talking about the gentle, quiet power of small daily habits. The idea that real transformation isn't about these huge, dramatic leaps.
Exactly. I mean, we all have this image of success coming from some massive heroic effort, right?
Mm.
But our sources today, they argue the complete opposite. They
Yeah.
really give us a framework, a kind of shortcut for understanding how tiny consistent actions are.
Yeah.
Well, they're the single most powerful engine for real growth.
So that's our mission in this deep dive. We want to unpack that mechanism. We want to show you how the smallest possible action, when you repeat it, gains this kind of incredible power over time.
It really is all about compounding. It's
Yeah.
about shifting your focus from the big, dramatic result to the boring but reliable process.
Right.
And the core idea is really simple. It's that every big thing you achieve in your life is just the end result of these tiny decisions you make every day.
An action that feels like nothing today.
Totally insignificant today, but you look back after a year or 5 years and you realize it was everything.
Okay, let's unpack that, because culturally, we are just wired for intensity, aren't we? We love the big makeover, the dramatic story.
We do.
But our sources say that successful people, they actively turn away from intensity. They choose consistency instead.
Mhm.
So why is that big, unsustainable push so much less effective?
Well, because intensity runs on motivation. And motivation is, it's fickle.
It comes and goes.
It totally comes and goes.
Yeah.
It depends on how you slept, what you ate, your mood. Consistency, on the other hand,
Yeah.
it's built on making things easier. It's about lowering what the sources call the activation energy.
So making it easier to start.
Yes. You don't need to feel inspired. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to do an action that's so small it's actually easier to do it than to not do it.
That's the real psychological trick, isn't it? The lower the mental cost of starting, the easier it is to build momentum. And that leads us straight to this idea of getting 1% better. We hear that phrase a lot, but I don't think people always grasp the sheer mathematical power behind it.
No, they don't. I mean, if you try to get 10% better, you'll probably fail. It's too much. It feels overwhelming.
Right.
But successful people, they don't try to be perfect overnight. They just aim for 1%. Just a tiny, tiny improvement each day. It makes the whole process feel almost frictionless.
And this is where the math really say. It just changes how you see everything. If you get 1% better every day for a year, you don't end up, 3 or 4 times better.
Not at all.
You end up 37 times better than where you started. And that gap, that's the magic of compounding habits.
It is. And our brains are just not built to understand that intuitively. We think in straight lines.
Yeah, we think linearly.
Which means we always overestimate what we can do in a day. And we just dramatically underestimate what we can do in a year or a decade.
Which is why these specific examples are so important. They give you that aha moment.
They really do.
So let's take the reading example. It's so simple. You commit to reading just 1 page of a book every single day. That's, 60 seconds?
Maybe. On its own, it feels completely pointless. You'd think, why even bother?
Right.
But you bother because you're playing the long game. You're building a system. 1 page a day, every day, is 365 pages in a year. That's a whole book.
And more than that, you've become a reader. You've changed your identity without even really trying.
Exactly, without the overwhelm. And we see the exact same thing with physical health.
So you decide, okay, I'm going to walk for just 10 minutes every day.
Yep.
You're not going to step on the scale the next day and see some huge change. In fact, for weeks, it'll feel like nothing has happened.
And that's where most people quit. They're looking for that instant reward.
Right.
But what's happening under the surface? You're improving your circulation, you're building muscle memory. All this invisible progress is happening. And then, months later, you suddenly realize, wow, I have more energy. I'm thinking more clearly.
The results show up later, after the consistency is locked in.
The benefits are delayed. That's the key.
So how do people get through that gap, that period where it feels like you're putting in the work but getting nothing back?
That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
The sources call it the plateau of latent potential. It's this valley where your progress is happening, but it just hasn't broken through to be visible yet.
I like that phrase.
The secret is to fall in love with the process. You have to love just showing up, not the eventual outcome. You focus on doing the thing, not what the thing will get you.
That trust in the process. It ties so perfectly into this other analogy our sources use, the idea of small habits as seeds.
It's the perfect metaphor. You plant a tiny seed. You know it has the potential to become this huge oak tree.
Right.
But if you dig it up every day to check on it,
You kill it.
you kill it. The most important growth, the root system, it's all happening underground where you can't see it.
And in this analogy, you, the person starting the habit, you're the gardener.
Yes. And the daily action, that's you watering the seed. It's that small, consistent input that makes sure the roots grow deep and strong.
And when you do that, you're not just getting results, you're changing who you are. You're not just doing a 10-minute walk. You are becoming a person who is active and healthy.
And that identity shift is the deepest form of change there is.
Yeah.
It shapes your thoughts, your future actions, everything.
Okay, so that's a huge takeaway. It's not, I want to achieve X. It's, I want to be the kind of person who does Y.
Precisely.
So let's make this super practical for you listening. How can you start applying this right now? Let's talk about the mechanics of making these habits stick.
Absolutely. The first big strategy is called habit stacking. It's brilliant. You don't try to find a new time in your day. You just latch a new tiny habit onto one you already have.
Okay, so you piggyback on an existing routine.
Exactly. So instead of just trying to remember to meditate, you say, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The old habit pulls the new one along for the ride.
I love that. It removes the need to think about it.
And the second big one is environment design. We think we can rely on willpower, but willpower, it's a limited resource, it runs out.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, you design your environment to make the good habit the easy choice, and the bad habit the hard one.
So if my habit is to read 1 page, don't leave the book on a shelf.
No. Put it on your pillow, or right next to the coffee maker. Make the cue so obvious you can't miss it.
You're engineering your own success. You're removing all the friction.
You're making consistency the path of least resistance. And that's the core message here, really. Big, amazing things don't happen in a sudden flash.
No.
They happen through these tiny, almost boring steps, just repeated again and again and again.
So just to sum up, we've talked about the power of consistency, that incredible math behind the 1% rule, and these practical ways to make habits stick, like habit stacking and designing your environment. It's about starting small and just staying in the game.
And maybe as a final thought, something to leave you with. If success is just small, positive steps compounding over time, what about the reverse?
What do you mean?
What's the compounding cost of inconsistency, of not doing that one small thing?
That's a really challenging way to look at it.
Because you're not just standing still when you skip a day. You're actually getting a little bit worse relative to where you could have been. Inconsistency isn't a pause button. It's like, it's negative compound interest on your own potential.
Wow.
So the real challenge isn't finding some perfect, complicated action. It's just committing to the repetition of the simplest one you can think of every single day.
Trust the process
Yeah.
and commit to the repetition. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.